Well, I'll just begin speaking, I suppose.
Okay, you have 5
I'm not
minutes,
sure
Liz.
why my camera.
Thank you.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for this opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Liz Addison, and I'm speaking on behalf of the climate action group, ClimateFast. I'm also a resident of Ward 11, where I'm one of the city's neighborhood climate action champions. Over the last several years, I've watched the city make ambitious, intelligent plans for dealing with the increasingly urgent climate crisis. The problem I see is that the resources available for implementing these plans are in no way equal to the task of getting the city's emissions to net zero by 2040. They are just not adequate. Recognizing that the city is dealing with one of the most difficult budget situations in its history, I've come to a number of conclusions. First, there is probably no way for the city to achieve its climate goals without massive funding from higher levels of government and the private sector. How to get this funding leads me to my next point. The city must mobilize its residents to demand greater provincial and federal funding through a massive campaign to make the general population aware of the climate crisis, its causes, its consequences, and realistic solutions. While there is no need to alarm people, there is no excuse for keeping them ignorant of the consequences of inaction. This climate engagement campaign can also motivate residents to reduce their own carbon footprints by, for example, installing heat pumps to heat their homes and to heat their water, buying electric vehicles, and using transit or active transportation. It's been suggested that about 40% of carbon emissions can be eliminated through personal action. Given the enormous demands on the public purse, the city must be more aggressive in generating new revenue. I support the many calls for a commercial parking levy, which, by the way, has been instituted in many other jurisdictions, including New York City, Montreal, Vancouver, Melbourne, Sydney, and many others. A municipal share in sales tax or income tax, and any of the other revenue tools that have been studied by city staff. Revenues from sources such as these should be put specifically toward transit services, which should be enhanced rather than downgraded, as has been proposed in this year's TTC budget. Transform TO calls for free public transit, as an important part of achieving the city's climate goals. Such revenues could also be directed toward improving the infrastructure of active transportation, like improved pedestrian and cycling paths. And finally, this is no time for the city to spend money unwisely. Improved planning would reduce inefficiencies in road repair. And I ask you, who hasn't seen roads dug up and repaved repeatedly and wondered why scheduling doesn't make this unnecessary? Expensive mega projects like reconstruction of the crumbling eastern section of the Gardner Expressway should also be reconsidered. In closing, I want to commend the city's efforts to date to reduce its carbon emissions, but I also urge you to work harder and smarter to put in place the resources needed to reach the city's climate goal of net zero by 2040. Thanks again for this opportunity to speak with you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you very much.